I'm sharpening my pencil because I went to the store and I was walking up and down the aisles because I wanted to find a pencil because I need a pencil to do my math work, which I was totally excited to start, but then I couldn't find the aisle. When I finally found the aisle, I went up and down and there were so many choices. There was all kinds of different colors. I didn't know what I was going to buy, and the perfect pencil has to be out there, and I wanted to buy the perfect pencil, and oh right, I do have a point. I want to talk about decimals today, the decimal point. Remember place value? We talked about tens, hundreds, thousands, and so on, up to billions, and you could even go further, but we didn't. Well, what happens after the decimal point? Okay, so here's a decimal number, and there's that decimal point that I was talking about, 562.34879. Well, after the decimal point, things change a little bit. There's the decimal point, and the number that is directly after the decimal point is in the tenths position. The number 4 is in the hundredths position. Notice it's 2 places from the decimal point. Then the next one is the thousandths position, and it's 3 places from the decimal point. Then the 7 is in the 10,000ths position, and it is 4 places from the decimal point. And you have the 100,000ths position, which is 5 places from the decimal point. And you could keep going on. Theoretically, you could keep going on forever. But I think you get the point. Deci means tenth. So when we move to the right of the decimal point, the place value is 10 times smaller. So we're talking about tenths. Is 1/10 smaller than the number beside it. Now, it's the opposite when we talked about just regular place value for whole numbers. When you move to the left, every time you move to the left, the place value becomes 10 times bigger. So decimals are just like mixed numbers. Like this guy right here that we were just looking at, the 562 is the whole number. 0.34879, that is it's the fractional part. And we're going to learn in another lesson how to change that into a fraction, actually. And last but not least, now when you have a whole number, let's say 2, it doesn't look like there's a decimal point, but there is. It's right there. Now, normally, it's just like when you see the variable x, and it doesn't look like there's any number in front of it, but there is. It's understood to be 1. Well, when you see a whole number and you don't see a decimal point, it's understood to be right there. So, the question is, if I add a 0, does it change anything? No, it doesn't, because that decimal point is there. So I could, in fact, add as many as many zeros as I wanted to, and this number still equals 2. So if the decimal point is there, it doesn't change the value. If the decimal point is missing, that's another story. Because if I just have a 2 and I add a 0 and there's no decimal point, that's going to be 20 and not 2. So be careful of that, but just be aware that you can add a 0, as many zeros as you want to, after the decimal point, and it does not change the value of the question. And that is your introduction to decimals.